So in my mind, the purpose of the trip was to just sort of go down and offer relief, offer help, work with Catholic Charities. Until about the week before we went, Catholic Charities was serving between like 600 and 800 people a day coming through their respite center, and so they just need bodies there to help with the clothing distribution, sort, assist the migrants who are coming through. There's a hygiene desk. And so that was our goal, was just to sort of go and be hands-on, and also to provide just a connection of shared humanity, just a warm, welcoming face to families who are coming through that are really suffering from a lot of trauma, and so just to kind of be there and be in solidarity with them.
We spent most of our time working at the Catholic Charities, which is a place where migrant families would be taken after they're released from Border Patrol custody. We did a lot of work working with those families. I spent most of my time kind of trying to talk to children, not very successfully because I'm not very good at Spanish.
It was amazing, the facility that they had, the room that they had, the way they had it organized, and the generosity of the American people in all of the supplies, whether it was in the kitchen, whether it was clothing, whether it was supplies for their goodie bags or whatever. It was just amazing, and I enjoyed that a lot.
One of the things I did was work in the clothing room at the respite center. So when they're coming through the respite center for Catholic Charities, they've been traveling, they have nothing. They literally have only the clothes on their back. So they're given a chance to shower, and they're all given a new set of clothing and shoes. And so I did a lot of that, just fitting people for clothes, helping them find sizes, shoes, sorting the clothing room, trying to make sure that it's organized. We did some sorting upstairs in the respite center. They have a huge, the whole top floor is just basically a huge warehouse full of donations. So a lot of that sorting of donations. And that was mainly what I did at the respite center.
Everyone needed shoelaces because the United States takes everyone's shoelaces, and I just thought that was just be terrible to try and walk without shoelaces on your shoes. And then I also part of the time worked at the front desk, I guess you could call it, and it's just where they have a bunch of hygiene and I don't know, any basic necessities like lip balm, hair ties. They had toilet paper, medicine, over the counter medicine, and so the migrants would come up and they would ask for things and I would help give them that.
There was one day that Kathy and I, there wasn't much going on at Catholic Charities, and we thought, they had, 700 mats that had sleeping mats, yes, that they didn't put blankets on, but these people were using them to breastfeed their babies. They were sleeping on them, and we decided to start washing those, which was a huge task in hindsight, but I was real impressed because there were two families there that said, "What are you doing?" In Spanish, of course, we had to translate all that, but they jumped right in, and what was it, Willie and Veronica and Allison and little Willie was one family, and they, if we were working, they were working, and then what was the other guy's name? Axel and his dad were there right when we were there and stuck in there, and it was a good day. I thought I was very impressed because they wanted to help in whatever way they could, and they didn't have to. In fact, Axel's dad was sick, and he was still jumping in there.
Yes, he's the one that had the sore throat that I was trying to cure with salt water and gargle,
We didn't end up getting to do a lot of work with families at the Catholic Charity Center. So we split up our group the first couple of days, and part of our group went to work with the Socorro Foundation, which is, we got in touch with Socorro through two of our group members who had been to the border working with Catholic Charities before and had ended up helping with Socorro. So they serve specifically high-risk people who were coming across the border. So for the most part, the people we encountered were pregnant and had just been released from the hospital after giving birth, or had just been released from the hospital for some other reason, like they had been sick, a child had been sick in their family, and they needed to be a little more isolated, whereas Catholic Charities, like Kelly was talking about, was really set up to just be a huge, place to receive as many people as were in need of services. So working with Socorro was really interesting because they had a more focused group of people that they were serving. They were able to really develop a process to help them with their paperwork, to help them with some basic skills, to learn English and things they would need as they traveled through the US and through the asylum process. Even some very basic things about human trafficking and what to watch for, how to try not to get taken advantage of, basically. And they were just a wonderful, really warm, welcoming group of people to work with, and helped us to kind of understand how things had changed in the time that they had been working with migrants in Texas over about 18 months, because it had changed dramatically and it was continuing to change dramatically.
I probably enjoyed a lot at the Socorro Foundation working with a family one-on-one from Honduras, because I was able to help them with their medical needs and able to just be a comfort to them. I hope I was. When we said our goodbyes, the mother was just tearful and hugging me, and even though I can't communicate very well in Spanish, I think that a lot of things had transpired.
At Socorro, we didn't do a ton of work. We sorted some donations, unloaded donations for them. But for the most part, we were there more to learn about their experiences and help them to, really, they helped us kind of focus and develop a plan for what we were gonna do when we got to Brownsville.
And then in Brownsville, we served, in Matamoros. So we served a lunch with the Socorro Foundation on Sunday. Yeah, on Sunday. And so we spent all of our morning shopping and packing lunches. Cutting up vegetables,
making
bagging
sandwiches.
them. Yes. And
Figuring out how we're going to physically carry them across the border.
Yeah. and then on Monday, I think we served dinner also in Matamoros, and we spent most of our day doing that too: cooking, shopping, preparing, walking it over, serving. So.
Well, I came late, and so I wasn't with them when they worked at Catholic Charities. So my time was mostly spent when we were feeding the people in Mexico. And, they were just so appreciative, and just meeting Anna Michelle and the girl from Team Brownsville, knowing about how passionate they were about helping the people down there.
I think that Monday night that we came across the bridge and expecting 500 people there and saw that mass of what we think was 600 people was just amazing and almost scary, but just so fulfilling that we were there at the right time.
I think when I heard that we were making lunch for at least 500 people, it's like, really? How are we going to do this? But once you get situated and number one, the supplies, the lunches that were bought by the Newman Center, it was just phenomenal that we were able to do that twice. But then the organization and the number of people, and it worked really well. Everybody pitched in, did their job, and we made 500 lunches twice.
2 days in a row.
Yes.
I was impressed with our group from Newman as well. I don't know that many of us knew each other very well, and everybody jumped in and did whatever we needed to do to get that across. I remember carrying all that food across the bridge that one day. I think it was
The first day on our backs.
on our backs and our backpacks.
The first day that we went to Matamoros and we were serving lunch, and we got into the plaza, and then just all of the people who were waiting there lined up so fast to get food. I almost started crying.
I was thinking too the other day about the asylum seekers on the other side of the border, and how much time they stand in line waiting, because, we went to serve them, they were already in line. And you think then they're in line for another meal during the day, and then they're in line because people are bringing over water, for them different times during the damn thing. And poor people, all they do is just like stand in line,
Usually they don't have anything else to do because the Mexican government doesn't allow them to work. They will not give them work visas or anything. And they're just kind of held in limbo, so to
Yeah.
speak, because you can't go out and do anything else. So
Yeah.
it's just traumatizing. When you really get to know the asylum seekers, you get the feeling that they want to do as much as they can to help out, and that this was something that they did not really choose, I guess, to be put into an impoverished state or anything like that, I just feel bad. I feel so blessed to have all the things that I have, but I also feel a tremendous amount of guilt to live the way I do. So that's probably the hardest thing to recover from a trip like that.
When we went into Matamoros on Monday night for dinner, there were considerably more people than when we went for lunch because they're expecting a dinner every night because it's provided for them every night, consistently about the same time. Whereas when we showed up with lunch, it was just sort of like no one really serves lunch consistently, so it was kind of a surprise. So there were a lot of people gathered, and they all cheered when we came around the corner with our wagons full of food, and it just sort of like, it was overwhelming.
But I thought all the people that accepted our meals were just very appreciative, and I'm somewhat used to helping with the soup kitchen here in town, and there are times that it's like, well, is that what you're having? Or, my food was cold, or, that's not what I like. And I didn't hear any of that, and I didn't see anything thrown away down there. I think they were very appreciative of what we did.
Yeah, even when you ran out of the food bags and we just had little bags of vegetables, cheese, and crackers left, they were thanking us for just whatever we could give them.
I had a little bit of a problem. I'm not sure if I was the leader of the pack when we were coming back across, or I'm not quite sure what it was, but they decided they wanted to look at my passport further and took me into a inner room, and I looked around and there were like 25 people sitting there in chairs, and they looked like they had been there for a while, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to be here for a while too. But I don't know if it's the privilege of being from the U.S. because most of these people didn't look like that, but I don't know. And I was only there maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but it makes you sit back and think, what are these other people doing, and what's the scrutiny that they go through.
And I had been in Mexico years and years ago, but going back this time and crossing over, and one of the first things you see is a federale with his bullets in his machine gun. It's very sobering to realize that goes on and realize you're in a foreign country at the mercy of someone else.
Especially if you don't speak the language very well. I mean, even though I've done 20 years of trips to Guatemala and Honduras, my Spanish is poquito. And it's just amazing. Every time you come back, you think, how grateful am I to be able to walk, and I'm used to the armed guards. Every time we went to Guatemala, we always had armed guards at the quick trips and riding Pepsi trucks or anything. You'd see them all the time that way. So that didn't shock me. That was kind of comforting, actually, in a way, because then you knew that you weren't going to have people come up and start any trouble with you.
I don't know if it bothered you guys or not, but when we came back across both times, somewhat the privilege of us being able to take the left-hand lane
Yes.
and walk basically right across to where, what they say on Monday, that there was a 3-hour wait to get back across the border if you didn't have a passport, and the scrutiny that those people went through. I felt guilty through that.
I was surprised at how many kids were on the other side of the border. I mean, I know parents aren't gonna leave their kids in their homeland to come, but I was just a little overwhelmed at the number of kids.
Actually, the number of people. And two, I was somewhat surprised at how someone is feeding these people every day.
Mhm.
I mean, we just were a dent in that with only our 2 meals, but quite surprising that they're there for as long as they are.
Surprising and unheralded. I mean, yes, there were people feeding those people every day, 2 meals a day, providing them water every day, volunteers. The Socorro Foundation we worked with, the other foundation, the other group where we did the hot dogs, I don't remember the name.
Team Brownsville.
But the place that we did that.
Oh.
Oh.
Good neighbor.
Good Neighbor.
Good Neighbor.
So Good Neighbor, and then you had Catholic Charities. Just the number of people, number of volunteers, people from Houston, the lady from Pittsburgh, Kansas, who drove down and joined our group, they just all came to help. The just magnificent generosity of the American people. Not necessarily surprising, but unheralded.
I think the most memorable or perhaps most impactful was when we were talking with the foundation on the second day. And the director was kind of explaining to us that contrary to kind of this popular belief, most of the community is actually really working together. Like a lot of the people that staff their center are actually the spouses of Border Patrol agents. That the community is well aware of the needs and limitations of certain aspects of government and private enterprise, and that they really try to help each other to fill those gaps.
Yeah. I think that our church is very generous in supporting us and being behind us. Trip.
I'm impressed with Newman's generosity. I was just amazed how they supported this whole effort.
Also, I think, you know, for me, like, sometimes I find it difficult if there's a language barrier to, I just get intimidated by the fact that, like, I can't communicate well. And so I think, and I've been in situations where I know 0 words in the language that the refugee or whoever speaks, and it's really difficult. And so it was nice, I thought, this time. I do have some Spanish, but even in it wasn't a lot, and so I still felt like I was able to connect with people and just sort of like at least get to know a little bit about them in the short time, especially at the respite center. There were people coming through, and even though we only maybe saw them, you know, for a day or 2, it was just kind of nice to sort of like be able to connect with each other. We were sort of chuckling about the same things, and you know, it was a good way for me to see that, like, even though I can't speak your language necessarily as well as I would like, we can still like hang out, be friends, figure out some way to connect. And I thought that, I don't know, I was pleasantly surprised by that. So.
I would go again.
Yeah.